So we're joined now by columnist and feature writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Aisha Sultan, and former leader of Girl Scout Troop 149, Nawal Abuhamdeh. Thank you both for joining us. Nawal, I want to start off with you. So, as the troop leader, can you just walk us through what happened when the Girl Scouts, I think it was for Eastern Missouri, decided that you selling bracelets for children in Palestine, I think it was for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund,
Correct.
was against their policy. So what happened?
Well, it wasn't even 2 days after we opened sales, and it was a pre-order form just to gauge the community's in interest in wanting to buy our bracelets, maybe at a mosque booth. And 2 days later, we get an email, one after the other, stating that we do not, this goes against our governing policies of being political and partisan. That those were their initial reaction to it, is that it was
Right.
political and partisan, and that they can't, their branding couldn't be associated with a fundraiser that deemed political. And
Okay. And
they appreciated our activism. So it had nothing to do with raising money for the children in Palestine. It was just brought up as activism and political.
okay. And I mean, this is Palestine Children's Relief Fund is a legitimate charity where, I mean, has been around for a long time. And I'm sure you would argue that it wasn't political, that this was about humanitarianism, right? It was about the suffering of children.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, did you feel that you had any choice other than to disband your troop? Considering the correspondence that you got from the Girl Scouts?
We weren't forced to disband. It was a choice that we made because we no longer felt like we were heard, and our voice, it didn't lend a hand to us. Their inclusivity didn't lend a hand to people that looked like us and stood for causes such as Palestine. And we didn't want to jeopardize our values and the great important work that our girls wanted to achieve in our communities and the world. So
Mhm.
it was an easy choice. We decided to disband so that we can continue to be a troop of leadership and humanity.
Um,
And Naval,
Aisha, can,
oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
going to ask you, Aisha. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask Naval. So after the initial initial response that this was too political of an event, and then you sort of followed up with that, and what was the response that you got to that?
There was disregard to the response that I responded to them. I responded so heartfelt. Um, I had to explain why this was considered a humanitarian crisis. All the lives that were lost, and that this was deemed almost the worst place, or the worst place for children to live at this time. Um,
According to the United Nations, that's exactly, I think there's so far 15,000 women and children have died.
yeah,
Um,
and at the time we quoted 12,000, but as you know, the number keeps going up. Of course, when our leadership isn't going to do something about it. And we were deeply disappointed by their disregard to even acknowledge that.
mhm, mhm.
And then
Aisha, can I ask you, Aisha, how did you hear about this story? And what were your thoughts about, the situation that these young girls and their parents found themselves in?
that's a great question. I was on Instagram, and somebody in the community who knows that I like to write about issues related to social justice, related to young people, um, tagged me in a post that Nawal had made updating just her circle about what had happened. And when I read the statement that she had on her Instagram, I reached out to her, and I reached out to the person who had tagged me, and I said, I would really like to talk to this woman. Do you think she would be open to talking to me? Because um, from my initial impression, it seemed unfair. And anytime someone tells me a story that sounds on its face value unfair, I want to find out more, and I want to talk to the people involved. And then I want to write something, um, letting other people know.
I mean, you've seen perhaps the correspondence between Noel and the Girl Scouts. They're saying they didn't threaten legal action, but in your view, was that implied? Was it a tacit? Was it enough for for it to come across as threatening?
Well, actually, they did. I mean, in the email, I saw the emails. I asked Nawal to forward me the emails, and what they are saying now. So there's a regional council, and then there's the national governing council above it. And the regional council is the one that reached out to Nawal and said, you need to shut this down. And after some email correspondence back and forth, it explicitly said that if you don't take this down, then we're going to be forced to take legal action. We will, and the National Girl Scouts organization. So
Wow.
that's why, I mean, that was really shocking to me. That this is not approaching a situation with like empathy or kindness or anything, I mean, it's coming at you in a very harsh, threatening kind of way. So then after my story came out and after it became sort of national news and went viral, and the Council on American Islamic Relations then sent a letter to the Girl Scouts saying, we want you to investigate why this was said. We want you to apologize. We want you to allow this fundraiser to happen. They had a list of demands. Then after that, the National Girl Scout Organization put out a statement saying that the regional council did not, what they said about legal action is not something that we support or that we agree with. So basically they threw them under the bus and said that, we would never have wanted to take legal action to resolve this. And we have talked to them and we're sorry that it was said this way.
Is that right, Noel? Did they approach you? Have they apologized? Have they tried to reconnect to get you back into the fold, or what?
Oh no. The regional council in Eastern Missouri, they've been very silent, and it's been very loud silence. And I haven't been reached out from national as well. The correspondence was between National Girl Scouts National and CARE National.
Mm-hmm. I just wonder, tell us a little bit about your troop. I mean, I think your daughter's in there. What is the age group of the girls? How long have you been, how long have you been formed? And how have they been impacted by this whole situation?
Sure. So we've been a troop since we were daisies, and what that means is kindergarten, first grade, and now the girls are in fifth grade, sixth grade. So this would be our fifth year being a Girl Scout troop. And of course, as time goes on, you lose some, you win some. And so the 8 girls that we have today have been together since the very beginning. And oh God, they're an amazing group of girls. Like they are true leaders, and they teach me so much. And they're literal sisters, and how they exemplify what teamwork is. They decide on actions and come to agreements, and then at the end of the day, they're just great girls. I love them so much. And what's interesting is when I was telling them about what's happening, but of course they're 10 and 11, and I also didn't want to take away from the project. They were so excited to help people in Gaza. They felt guilt. They feel guilty. They continue to feel guilty. And they said, we feel very guilty. We feel uncomfortable being happy. That's what they say. We're uncomfortable being happy, and we don't want to sell cookies. What can we do? Right? So they were excited. I didn't want to overshadow that excitement and that pride that they're doing something good. But when I did have to talk to them about disbanding, because it's an important decision and I wanted their approval, they found it very easy. I keep using the word humanity because I want to say they chose Palestine, but the idea of why they chose Palestine over Girl Scouts. And when I told them, is it okay? Should we disband? What do you guys think? And they were quiet, and they said, well, what's our new name going to be? It was so easy and now they want to design, they want to be fashion designers and design their own uniforms and etc. So really, the decision was easy for them. But interestingly, now, after everything is coming out, and they want answers. They want Girl Scout. They want to be apologized by Girl Scouts themselves. And they want to know why this activity was deemed political. They want to know why they saw articles and other troop members participating for fundraising activities for war victims in Ukraine. But when we wanted to do something similar, we were treated differently. And I think
Aisha, can I ask you?
answers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Aisha, can I ask you, did the Girl Scouts respond to you to any of your queries? I mean, for instance, the charge that, that they did allow Ukraine funding for Ukraine, what's the difference? Why do Ukrainian children or the people of Ukraine merit humanitarian aid and for some reason not Palestinian children?
Right. So I reached out to the woman who Nawal had her correspondence with at in the Council of Eastern Missouri, the Girl Scouts of Eastern Missouri. And initially I got sort of the same boilerplate policy response about violating policy. And then I wrote back and I said, I just want to know what the difference is. Like, can you please just address this one issue? And that's when they said that you have to get pre-approval to do a fundraiser for an outside group. And they had not gone through the process to get pre-approval. There's like a vetting process and, because they are a nonprofit. And so if a nonprofit raises money for another nonprofit, there is a procedure and a policy that, steps that you have to follow, which I totally understand. I think Nawal totally understands. And she had said, if I had been made aware, or if someone had said to me, this is what you need to do to get a pre-approval or to get this approved, she would have certainly done that. But that wasn't the approach that was taken. It was just like, shut this down. It's too political. If you don't shut it down, we're going to take legal action. I mean, that's very different than saying, hey, you didn't follow the right policy. Let us show you what the policy is. And then why don't you submit something and let us see when there's a time that you can do this. Totally different approach.
Yeah. I'm not a difficult person. I'm not. The only reason I didn't stand down is because I wasn't met with that compassion and that human-like interaction,
Well, I mean, I've only spoken to you for a few minutes, but you sound like I've seen a lot of troops here in Texas. Some of them are predominantly Muslim or Arab or South Asian. And you sound like exactly the kind of parent or troop leader that you would think that the Girl Scouts would value. And you perfectly seem to reflect the values of the Girl Scouts. I mean, what is the principle of the Girl Scouts? Can you tell me that somehow you have contravened or contradicted?
Well, the values of Girl Scouts. Can you rephrase the question? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I'm just saying. So what? I mean, they have like they have some taglines that the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, I haven't memorized them, but essentially it's about being compassionate and kind and inclusive and a scout to every scout. And you have a social responsibility, and they promote civil justice and standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. And, the tagline that they always use is to make the world a better place. And that's all we were doing.
That literally, embodies every single thing that you have been doing, with this particular issue. So I wonder, so what are the plans now then, Nawal? What are you going to do? Are you going to create an alternative troop? Have you set the wheels in motion? What's happening?
We haven't been able to set the wheels in motion because this has just, I don't know if you've realized we've reopened sales, and now we have over 2,000 bracelets to make.
Oh, wow.
So
that's amazing.
It is amazing. It's from all over the world. That's what's even more amazing. But that was always the plan. When we left and the girls said, well, what's our new name going to be? It was very clear that we weren't going anywhere. We were going to continue to do the things and be the people that we were set to be, to form these future leaders that we need in this.
I think it's very cool that Nawal has set up an event where this weekend people from outside the community can come help them make these 2,000 bracelets, because that's a lot of bracelets to make for a small group of young people. And so, and there's been a lot of community support, and a lot of people want to donate and help and come be part of it and show their support, which I think is like really affirming. And another thing is, one thing I love about their troop is that it's a very diverse group with girls from like very different ethnic backgrounds, ranging from Indian and Pakistani to Somalian to Palestinian to Jordanian. I mean, it is like just representative of America. And what they wanted to do are Girl Scout values and their American values and their Muslim values, right? So it just, and what I really love is that because Nawal was brave enough to speak out and put her name to this story, and we know all the risks that go along with going public in a story. I was very concerned. I'm always very concerned when a regular person talks to me in any way, and I let them know, okay, this is the possible backlash that can happen. You should be aware, this and that, because I don't want that on my conscience, and so.
Because there's trolling, there will be trolling, and there will be, threats.
All kinds of things can happen, right?
And so, I do appreciate you, Aisha, for allowing me to say, no, I do not want this story to be published if I felt that way. Yeah, so I want to say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like if I reach out to someone and they're like, no, we're not comfortable, then 100%, I'm not gonna force their hand, because it's their safety, I mean, it's not like I'm going to a publicly elected official and saying, you have to answer to me. This is like a regular citizen, And
but a regular citizen, but also the context where we are facing increased, attacks against people wearing kafirs, which again, in some ways you're very courageous to wear that, because that is considered some kind of symbol of hate by many people. The number of attacks that have increased across, the intolerance towards Muslims or Arabs or Palestinians, people being physically assaulted, even killed. So yeah, it's very real, absolutely very real.
What I think is really amazing is through this act of bravery and using your voice, you have also empowered yourself and these young women to realize how strong and how big and how bold you can be when
I think so.
You do stand in your truth. Like they stood in their truth, and then they got support from all over the world. And I think that is a lesson that like is so valuable.
It's powerful. Final word to you, Nawal. I just want to know, what would you say to other troops across the country, perhaps again, whether are Muslims or Arabs or Palestinians in those troops at this particular time? What's your advice to them about, continuing in the process or standing up for what they believe in after your experience?
Yeah, I've been contacted from troops all around the country as well, and just telling me that they stand with me in solidarity, and they've talked to their girls about that. And I think that's amazing. That was the whole idea of being a troop leader, is to bring awareness to these great stories, and that influence and inspire these girls to be something, and can say, hey, look, these former troop of 149, they decided to stand up for what's right and stand and stand strong for what they believe and didn't back down, and I think it's hard to see a lot of people say like we boycott Girl Scouts because not Girl Scouts, but the Girl Scout cookies, because I know how hard the girls work. And at the end of the day, it's all about the girls. It's about, we're just the troop leaders guiding them, but it's always been about what's the best for them, right? I don't know if that makes sense, because
no, it does, and because I don't think your message is anti anything. It's about positivity, about inclusiveness. Let's hope that the Girl Scout, whether it's the regional or the national, whether you come back into the fold or not, maybe hopefully they will learn from this experience and try to make sure something like this doesn't happen. And they do reflect what Aisha said, which is reflect America, which includes people from all different backgrounds with, with that, but we all, I think we all share the same values in terms of prioritizing humanity and humanitarian causes. So I just want to thank you both, Nawal and Aisha, for bringing this story out, and Nawal, for you for being brave enough to talk about this. Really appreciate you and wish you all the best, the best of luck. And please keep in touch with us and let us know if we can help you in any way. Thank you both.